Well, hello. Welcome to Orchid Bloom's podcast. Welcome back, bloomers. I am your host, Orchid Brown with Orchid Bloom's podcast. You can find me on TikTok, X, and Blue Skies at Orchid Eye Brown. This week's podcast episode is on a topic that I have mentioned a few times. Most recent episode was narcissistic parents. So today we will be covering transactional relationships. Before I get into the topic of transactional relationship, I just wanted to share something that I saw online sometime this week. And it was funny that I saw this video having this conversation because it was something that I touched on for Father Womb's podcast episode. And I mentioned it in the beginning of the podcast episode that I did not believe back in the day that while I was going through what I was going through, that I should, be praying or seeking a husband when I need to get right myself. And so I didn't believe that I explained that well enough. And I really hope that, as my audience, you understood exactly what I was trying to say. But in this video, I started laughing because I was like, how did this person know that I just spoke about something like this in a podcast episode, but not as eloquently as they had put it? And now what this female was saying in a video, she was asking the question to the audience, are you dating your trauma? Are you selecting your partners based on your trauma? I didn't really take it as a video that was focused on just women alone, but also men as well. And so I laughed when I heard that because, again, when you're going through something in your life and you are trying to figure it all out, you are trying to find alignment in every single area of your life. Sometimes that comes off as chaos, complete chaos in your life. And so why would you want to bring in a partner during a time where you are experiencing chaos? You are not going to attract a partner that aligns to you or aligns to the future that you're trying to build. You're going to attract where you are right now. So she posed that question. She posed the question, are you dating, are you seeking, or are you attracting your trauma? And she kind of went into it a little bit more, and I appreciated that she did that because she asked the questions. And I mean, some of the things that she brought up, I didn't connect with, but I understood why she put that video out. And I think one of the things that I didn't connect with was, are you looking for someone that you can help? Like, do you feel that if you're not needed in the relationship, that it's not the relationship for you? Are you Susan, the builder? Are you Bob the builder? You need to be in a relationship with someone that you can build, someone that you can help. She was explaining that is due to your trauma. You are selecting partners or people to go experience life with that feed into a trauma that you had. So that was very enlightening to be talking about this in a podcast episode and then turn around and have someone post up a video asking such a very simple question that a lot of people don't reflect on. This is why I'm always reflecting on my patterns. Everyone needs to know their patterns. And you also need to know how to read other people's patterns, because their patterns can tell you if they are there for you or if they're there to fulfill a need, something that fulfills a part of themselves where they felt neglected. Once you learn that you need to fill that need to stay in that person's life, you understand that once you can no longer fulfill that need, you're done. Your relationship's over. It was a transaction, if you really think about it. I have never been interested in attracting anything out of desperation. And so it's a complete turn off for me when someone comes to me and they have a level of desperation that I just cannot connect with, because I know that they're not there for me. They're just there because they need someone to fulfill a brokenness inside of them. That isn't a foundation that any relationship can last on, as far as I'm concerned. Most people would say that, oh my gosh, I got married based on these traumas. The desperation kept our relationship together. Our marriage is binded because of this. We had children. We built on it. This person would never leave me because of their trauma. I get it. It sounds secure. I just personally wouldn't want that life. I would want someone who wants to be with me for me, not because of their trauma. I don't want to pick someone due to my own trauma. I want to live a better life. We only have one life to live. Why would I waste it just to end up growing old and regretting my choices? Yes, the guy is still there, but will I be fulfilled? I did live a long life. I did share that with a partner. We did have kids. We have grandkids now. That's great. But was I fulfilled? And a lot of people would say, well, you're asking for too much if you're actually, wanting fulfillment out of life. That's just you being selfish. But why is wanting someone to love you for you selfish? Why is wanting a relationship that isn't transactional selfish? Why do we need to conform to that thought process that this is what life is? Who decided this? Why can't I just choose to be happy? You always hear in church when pastors go up and they talk to couples who are having difficulties in their relationship because, hey, they entered into this thinking it was going to be happily ever after, and they didn't realize that each partner had their demons. And the pastor will be up there going, hey, everybody, understand, choose to love the partner that you're with. Just choose them. Stop dwelling on the lies. Just choose them. Just choose them and love them. That's it. And I understand what the pastor is saying. He doesn't want to hear all the bullshit anymore. I get it. And as far as the pastor is concerned, you are so desperate to get married that you did not try to discern or understand the partner that you were with. He came, she came, and they gave you an image that you wanted to see, something that fit the need that you wanted, and they provided that to you up until y'all got married. And then after y'all got married, knowing your thought process, your foundation, which is no to divorce, they no longer needed to put on that fake face that they had on before to lock you down. They could be themselves. Now you feel betrayed. Now you feel like you were lied to. But you should have discerned this person. You should have taken the time to actually get to know them and make sure that their words align with their actions. But you never once checked that. You just thought, oh, I prayed for a husband and here he is. He has to be it. God chose this man for me. Again, God is not the only one listening. Now let me get off of this rant and actually get into the actual topic of this podcast episode. I just wanted to share that because it was just a nice confirmation to go on the internet and see someone making a video about this, talking about how people choose their relationships based on their traumas. They choose their friendships based on their traumas. And I was like, holy. And to be honest, I still haven't even processed that question for myself, really just sat down and go through my life and look at all the relationships that I've had and truly identified what attracted me to them. I would really need to kind of sit down and write out all of this for me personally, answer my question for myself. But I think the other question that I've always asked myself, and this is a topic that I've had with someone maybe like a few years ago, where I said to this person, I seem to have more tolerance for women's bullshit than I do men's bullshit. Like I don't have the same tolerance depending on the sex. And so that I feel could also be associated with my trauma and why I won't accept it in a male, but I will allow it in a female. So I have some homework to do. But I still need to do this podcast episode and I still need to pump it out. And then the next podcast episode is going to be an imposter syndrome. So I'll be busy, but when I do take a break from podcasting, I am going to be jotting this stuff down and really honing in on how the hell did I attract those people as friends, those partners. What about them was I attracted to then? And now when I look back, I'm like, ugh, why? When it comes to transactional relationships, as you are well aware, based on my Narcissistic Parent podcast episode, that is where the transactional relationship first started in my childhood. And going into the Mother Womb podcast episode, I had expressed that that was my introduction to that type of relationship. Now, what exactly did I get out of it? To be honest, nothing. As I will explain in this podcast episode on transactional relationship. What is a transactional relationship? A transactional relationship is one where individuals interact based on a give and take system, expecting something in return for their actions or contributions. It's a short-term, task-oriented relationship focused on immediate benefits with clear exchange of goods, service, and rewards. Unlike relational relationships, which emphasizes trust and emotional connection, transactional relationships are primarily about achieving a specific goal or outcome. In my experience, from a child to a parent, transactional relationship does not benefit the person that is being taken advantage of. I have noticed that the give to take ratio is not equal, and it's not great. Now that we're adults and we should know better and we have our own faculties, we make our own money, we can go at any time, we don't have to stick it out, we don't have to enslave ourselves to a system that's not working for us. We still enter into those types of relationships and we still stick it out, even though the ratio isn't equal and even though the ratio is still not great. Don't get me wrong, I understand completely why someone would stay in that type of situation when you know you're getting the shitty end of the stick, but you stay. It could be because you're having issues with loneliness. It could be because your self-esteem is really low and you just don't think you can find better, that this is the best you can do. There are a lot of people who are in that mindset because of everything that they've experienced starting from childhood. It really breaks you down. It really turns you out. It's not a good feeling. So I do understand why people would stay in a transactional relationship that does nothing for them. There's a warm body there, someone to talk to, someone that seems invested in you, that's right there, and that's enough. I won't judge you for that. I really won't. I don't know what you've been through to be in that state of mind where you are not enough for you, but somebody else needs to give you that validation, and you need to stay in a bad place or stay in something that doesn't benefit you at all so that you can feel worthy. If you are in a transactional relationship with a narcissist, they like to make a big deal about what they are giving. They want you to see the small, insignificant offerings as the whole world, so they can ask for the world from you. The value is actually not the same, but if they can convince you it is, they can demand more. These types of relationships exist everywhere, in your family, with your friends, and it runs rampant in the workplace. But some people are genuine and believe the best in people and hope that they will rise above their darkest desires to take from others or use the affections that that person has against them for their own benefit. A lot of people give up and decide to embrace it, the dark side, the darkness. They feel so good exercising their control over others. And it starts with a transaction. A transaction is consent. You can't backpedal and then say you want to change the terms. This is the transaction. Saying this kind of triggered a memory. A memory where I was not being a very good family member. So the story is, try not to make this too long. The story was my family member, who is close to me in age, but not really that close. She's slightly younger than I am. She entered into a transaction, but she didn't really realize at the time that she entered into that transaction. They both agreed after they met that both of them wanted to keep what they're doing on the down low. So a situationship, basically. Now, I guess she started to catch feelings and wanted more, but he did not want to change the terms of their agreement. the transaction. So they ended up fighting back and forth about this, where she was like, well, I'm allowed to change my mind. And he was like, that's great. I don't want to change the terms. I am perfectly comfortable with no one knowing about us. I don't want to claim you. He didn't say it in that words, but that's basically what he was saying. And so she was venting to me about it. And this is where I feel like I wasn't a good family member, because I should have sided with her, but I didn't. I ended up siding with him because she was the one who brought it up in the first place, and he agreed with her. They covered a few things in their discussion, to be perfectly honest, and they both agreed on certain things together. So why do you want to change the terms now? You can't have the upper hand in negotiating a new contract, a new transaction, just because you caught feelings. That person isn't really there with you, and the person is making it quite clear that he's not there with you. His actions, his behavior, the way he talks to you, he's showing you that he is not there with you. So I told my family member this, and I guess, she didn't really like it because she expected me to kind of side with her and go, yeah, women can change our mind anytime. And I agree with that. I just feel that once you change your mind and you bring it up and is asking for the terms to change, or the agreement, the transaction to change, you also have to take the risk of walking away if that person tells you that you don't match what they're looking for. Again, he was nice about it. He didn't actually say it as straightforward as I'm telling you that it is. But to me, the translation is that you don't fulfill what I'm looking for in a woman. The type of woman that I want to go out in public with, you don't fit that category. And so I left that part out when talking to her, but I did explain to her that he does not have to accommodate your terms just because you caught feelings. He may have impressed you enough for you to want to change the terms and now kind of want to proudly parade him around, but he doesn't feel the same way about you. So in that instance, if the person is not reciprocating where you are at in this transaction, you have to be willing to walk away. And she was unwilling. So she just kept fighting back and forth for I don't know how long and blah, blah, blah. Let's move on. The most significant example of such transaction in the Bible, after fasting for 40 days in the desert, Satan tempted Jesus 3 times. In the third temptation, Satan offered Jesus all the kingdoms of the world in exchange for Jesus worshiping Satan. Jesus rejected this offer and told Satan to leave, which demonstrated his commitment to serving God alone. His understanding and faithfulness of who he is and who he serves never faltered. That transaction was temptation. And I think what people don't notice about that interaction is that Jesus knew that Satan did not have the authority to give him that power. If God created Lucifer, morning star, who is now Satan, fallen angel, who actually has the authority to give you kingdoms all over the world, if not the creator? So of course, that was a lie. A lot of transactions start with a lie. People expressing an authority they don't have in order to get into your good graces, offer you something so they can get something in return. They also make sure that they get what they want first. That way, when the realization does come out that they actually never had the power to do that, it was too late. You already gave them what they wanted. They don't even have to fulfill the transaction that they gave you because you were too quick to give it up. Like most transactions, it is to fulfill a desire. They seek out what you want and offer it to you for something in return. If they can't figure out what you desire, or at least identify what they can promise to give you in order to receive something, they will create an insecurity to sell you the importance of partaking in this transaction. With the Jesus and Satan situation, 40 days of fasting, you are weak. Mentally, emotionally, physically, you're weak. So Satan thought, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to offer him all the kingdoms in the world. And he would be, king of all of them? But of course, it would mean that Satan is Lord above Jesus. Satan never truly took the time to get to know Jesus and to understand that Jesus isn't really interested in ruling the world. If he had taken the time to get to know Jesus, and the entire time that this dude was stalking him, not once did you realize what Jesus was about. For real? For real. So he offered him all these kingdoms in the world in exchange for him to worship him, not realizing that that was not what Jesus desired. Jesus was weak, and you still couldn't convince him to want something he never wanted. A transaction is only useful if someone really wants it. Do you know how many people try to offer me something that I know I can give myself? A lot of people. A lot of people. They just assume that because they're suffering from insecurities or these types of insecurities, that if they offer to fill something that they desire in you, that they can get anything they want out of you. These people see me and they think they know me, so they know what I want. You don't know shit. You don't even know what I need. What I need cannot be provided by anyone but me. So I find myself dealing with a lot of projectors. They come in, they tell you how they're struggling with all of these things and try to have you confirm that you struggle with it too, so they can offer to help you with it because, broken can fix broken. Like trauma bonding. A lot of people do this, trauma bond. So when they find out that I don't really struggle the way that they are struggling with their trauma, it upsets them because now they have nothing to offer, because what they're looking for is a transactional relationship. That's all they know. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand. These people are looking for someone who's just like them, someone who shares in their traumas, someone that they could build that connection with, knowing that they both deal with the same insecurities. I understand that, it's like a fellowship. It feels like you belong. I get it. It's a connection that you can hold tightly. It's yours, and you can do whatever you want with it. I, just like many people, have entered into transactional relationships with family and friends because I care about them, but also because it's all they know. And I recognize that. An example with family members or even friends, I do this with like almost everybody. When I borrow money, I feel the need to pay it back as soon as possible because I find that certain people who are addicted to transactional relationship, they take more than what the money is worth. And they keep changing the agreement until you pay them. So I like to pay them back immediately. I have to be honest as well. One of the reasons why I pay them back immediately is not just to protect myself because I know what type of people they are, or because I know that this is all that they know, but because it gives me satisfaction to pay them back. And I also get to see that disappointment on their face when they realize that they won't have that access to me that they wanted using the money. Loan is paid in full. Now they need to find something else to enter into a new transaction with me. They could offer something emotional, physical, or mental, especially if you don't need something tangible. Key characteristics of transactional relationships. First on the list, quid pro quo. There's an understanding of a trade-off or exchange where each party benefits in some way. The second one is task-oriented. The focus is on completing a specific task or achieving a particular goal. And the third, short-term. These relationships are often temporary and focus on immediate outcome. The fourth, limited emotional investment. There's less emphasis on building a deeper emotional connection as the focus is on the transaction itself. The fifth, clear expectations. Both parties understand that they are expected to contribute and what they will receive in return. And the last one, focus on benefits. Parties are particularly concerned with what they can get out of the relationship. Now, transactional relationships are characterized by a give and take exchange, often with the focus of specific benefits or obligations. What I have mentioned prior to going through these key characteristics are transactional relationships where it's not fair, where it's not an equal give and take that those types of relationships are experiencing. So there are many people out there in transactional relationships where things are fair, everything is outlined properly, everyone's on the same page, and everyone is happy with the transaction that is currently going on between them. Those types of transactional relationships are fair. It takes care of both parties. Now that I have kind of broken down the types of transactional relationships, such as fair to unfair transactional relationships, I kind of wanted to focus on the real depth of the relationships that aren't fair, the transactional relationships that aren't fair. What I have noticed with the unfair transactional relationships is that someone is not being honest. So they change their minds and do not communicate that. With the example with my family member, I feel that rejection was at play in her decision to do what she did, even though she was the one that brought up this transaction and she was the one that was trying to protect herself by doing this. Ultimately, that transaction kind of limited her in how she could express herself. He knew fully well what type of person she was and that she would end up changing her mind, but she was not honest about who she was to herself. So it was almost like she lied to herself and then turned around and lied to him. And he went along with it. But he was unwilling to change the transaction or agreement just because she changed her mind, just because she did not know what she wanted, just because she could not be honest. Not being honest causes problems. I'm a firm believer in honesty. If what you are offering does not align with what I need or want or where I am going in my life, then I'll reject it. The issue I face is the backlash from the rejection. My rejection was never a part of the plan. So they argue that they deserve some reward for just being honest. A lot of people weaponize honesty to get what they want ultimately in the end. So both situations, still the same outcome of dissatisfaction, which leads me into the negative impacts of transactional relationships. Transactional relationships where exchanges are primarily driven by a need or a specific benefit can have negative impacts like a lack of emotional depth, reduced satisfaction, and the potential for resentment and feelings of being used. They can also limit genuine connections and may lead to unrealistic expectations and emotional burnout. The impact is emotional, and here I will provide more details as to why. The first is lack of genuine connection. So transactional relationship can feel shallow and superficial, lacking the deeper emotional investment and trust needed for a fulfilling relationship. Next on the list, conditional affection. Affection may be given or withheld based on actions or benefits rather than genuine feelings, leading to sense of being used and a lack of emotional intimacy. The next one, reduced relationship satisfaction. When relationships are solely focused on the exchange of benefits, they can lack the satisfaction and joy that comes from deeper emotional bonds. And next, resentment and feelings of being used. If one person feels like they are giving more than they are receiving, or that their needs are not being met, resentment and feelings of being used can arise. And last on the list, emotional burnout. The constant focus on obtaining or providing benefits can lead to emotional exhaustion and a sense of being overwhelmed. Now, when it comes to behavioral or psychological impact, the list starts off with unrealistic expectation. Transactional relationships can be built on unrealistic expectation of what each person should give or receive, leading to disappointment and conflict. Next on the list is erosion of trust. The emphasis on individual gain can undermine trust, as each person may become more focused on their own needs rather than the well-being of the relationship. Next on the list, lack of flexibility and adaptability. Predetermined expectations and responsibilities can make it difficult for the relationship to adapt to changing circumstances or needs. That's very, very important. If you cannot adapt in a relationship, oh man, if you cannot handle changes, oh man. Next on the list, competitive rather than collaborative mindset. Transactional relationship can foster a competitive mindset where individuals are more focused on what they can get from the relationship rather than working together towards shared goals. And I believe I have a podcast episode that discuss competitive relationships and how it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. Next on the list, short-sightedness. The focus on immediate short-term gains can lead to a lack of long-term commitment and loyalty. And the last on the list, reliance on contracts and results. The emphasis on tangible benefits can lead to a reliance on contracts and tangible results, neglecting the importance of emotional connection and trust. The opposite of a transactional relationship is relational or transformational relationship. Relational relationships are based on trust, mutual respect, and long-term engagement, going beyond the mere exchange of goods or services. Transformational relationships, on the other hand, involves doing something for someone without expecting a reward, with the relationship itself being the reward. That's my type of relationship. When I look back at my interactions as a child with that narcissistic parent that was enforcing transactional relationship with me, I kind of gave them whatever they want, as I said, because this is all they know. But even when I was doing these things, even though they were offering to do all of these things in return for it, I didn't really care what they were offering. I just gave it to them because it made them happy. I didn't really need anything in return. The only thing I needed was to eat, watch some TV, go hang out with my friends. I was a very basic child. I didn't need a lot. It didn't take a lot for me to give what this person was asking for. Now, as an adult, I still do that, and I have to catch myself, because not everyone that you meet, that you do things for just out of the kindness of your heart, views it that way. They view it as you are entering in a transactional relationship with them, and they start feeling like, oh, I found a kindred spirit, somebody who wants to do a transaction. Nope. So I find myself spending more time explaining that this is for free. I don't want anything from you. Oh, but I have to. No, I don't need anything. You sure you don't need anything? No, I do not need anything. Just take the gift. Goodbye. Those are the ones that start stalking you, because they don't understand. They don't know any better. They've never received somebody that has just given without wanting something in return. So I have to be careful, not just for my safety, but for their mental state. Transactional relationship, these are categorized by short-term focus, often involving an exchange of goods or services with little regard for building a lasting connection. A lot of people are used to that. They're just used to going in and out of different relationships and just bouncing from one place to the next, just aimless, just completely aimless in life. Relational relationships, these prioritize the building and maintenance of a healthy relationship, often involving mutual understanding, respect, and long-term commitment. Transformational relationship, these involve doing something for someone without expecting a reward, with the relationship itself being the reward. They are often characterized by a deep sense of care and connection. Because I was raised in a transactional environment, you would think that I would embrace those types of relationships or pursue that direction of building transactional relationships with every single person I meet. But I have never believed that it would get me everlasting happiness. So I reject it from everyone. I just don't want what you're offering, because what you're offering to me, it's nothing. A lot of people can't handle being in a friendship or a relationship with me because, number one, I disturb their demons. After some time, they will run. My relationship style is more relational and transformational relationship style. I encourage growth, shining a light on your darkness, facing your demons, becoming the best version of oneself. Not everyone can handle that journey because it's hard, but the rewards are endless. Now that concludes my podcast episode. Thank you for supporting the Orchid Blooms podcast. Take this time to subscribe, follow. Don't forget to rate and leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. Subscribe and follow our social media pages, which is Orchid Bloom's YouTube channel, The Ambitious Obsession Network on Facebook, at The Ambitious Ops on Twitter, at The Ambitious Net on Instagram. Share your favorite podcast episode with your family and your friends, and I hope you have a splendid day.